Talk's Retail Fast 5, brought to you in partnership with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Firework, Avalara, TGW, and Sezzle. Ranked in the top 10% of all podcasts globally, the Retail Fast 5 is the podcast that we hope makes you feel a little smarter, but most importantly, a little happier each week too. Today is December 14th, 2023. I'm your host, Ann Mazenga.
And I'm Chris Walton.
And we are here once again to discuss the most important headlines from the past week, but this time, the past year, that highlight how the physical, digital, and human elements of retail are coming together to shape the future. Chris, it's our annual awards show. My favorite
show of the year. We've got some new categories. I can't wait to get to some of them. Like, I'm so hyped up for some of my answers, and as you would expect. And
clearly.
Yes.
Well, we also have some special guests joining us for the show, which we do every year.
Annual tradition.
We have the one and only David Ritter and David Brown. The Davids are with us from the Alvarez and Marcel Consumer and Retail Group. Welcome, guys. Dave Ritter, we haven't talked to you in a long time, but you brought your Lumberjack Dave shirt. So why don't you tell the folks listening a little bit about you and your background here before we get started?
Nice to meet you, or nice to see you. I, of course, brought the Lumberjack flag. Wouldn't be on brand without it.
No.
Dave Ritter, longtime consultant in the retail industry, focused on kind of strategy and operational transformation type programs. Nice to be here, though. Good to see you.
Welcome back. And another mic drop, Dave, which was David Brown coming from last year, bringing all the goodness. David Brown, introduce yourself and a little bit about your background, and let's get going after that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. So David Brown, like Mr. Ritter, longtime consultant, really focusing on retail transformation, primarily in the beauty and luxury space. Super excited to be here. Let's go.
It's great to have you guys. It's great to have you both. You were here last year, so this is literally an annual tradition with the two of you, the two Davids, as we like to joke here at OmniTalk. All right, Ann, but before we get started, do we have any announcements we need to make at the top of the show?
We do. So NRF, as everyone knows, is less than a month away, which means that the Retail Orphan Initiative Super Saturday Analyst Day is only 1 month away, Saturday, January 13th. And make sure that you start to look at your travel plans and make accommodations for this, because for every retailer that attends, 250 children will get clean water, education, or life skills just from you being there. So this is 100% free for retailers to attend. And last year, they raised over $380,000 to help over 325,000 children in 28 different countries. Also, if you're a technology supplier, don't worry. They have not forgotten about you. You can do a sponsorship for Retail ROI for as low as $2,500. You can see the full agenda, including a keynote from Run DMC frontman Daryl McDaniels, which I know everyone is excited about. You can get sponsorship information, but most importantly, you can register to make an impact for those 325,000 children right now at retailroi.org. That's retailroi.org. Make sure you sign up, Chris. Could not be more impactful at NRF.
No, it's a great announcement to open the show with, like an annual award show, giving back. It's awesome. So, all right, well, let's get this party started. Let's get it on the road. We've got everything from headline of the year to one of my personal favorites, most overhyped tech of the year. And we're going to close out the show as well with a few predictions around 2024. So you're going to want to stay tuned and stick around for that. But with all that said, today's award winners are those that the four of us feel deserved recognition this year, but we also want to give all of our loyal listeners out there the opportunity to tell us what we missed. So please submit your nominations for each of the categories via direct message to either Ann or myself in LinkedIn, or in the comments on the clips of these videos we will be posting later this week on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and we will try our best to comment on them and call them out in our final show of the year, which will take place next week on Wednesday, December 20th. All right, let's kick it off. Retailer of the year. Let's go to David Ritter first for this one.
All right, my retailer of the year is Sprouts Farmers Market.
Whoa!
All right.
Sprouts
Say
has
more.
Stock, from $32 to $49 over the last year. They've opened 30 stores, which is pretty impressive organic growth in this current market. And frankly, just for a specialty grocer to thrive in a market where consumers are trading down and increasingly kind of consolidating trips, I think is just incredibly impressive.
Wow. My good loyal friend of the OmniTalk, Nick Conat, the COO there, was going to be pleased as punch to hear that recognition. All right. David Brown, who's your nominee this year?
It's funny. I almost went grocery too, but I changed at the last minute. I'm going with 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven. Okay. Why?
Added more than $6 billion in sales.
Wow.
Yeah, everything's working, right? New loyalty program rolled out the last couple of years working, last mile delivery working, hyper personalization, based on demographics working, just killing it across everything that they're doing, and it's resulting in sales and profits. It's a great story.
Yeah, we saw. Man, what was their store format called?
Evolution store.
Yeah, Evolution
Yeah.
store format down in Texas. That thing was
Revolution
banging.
is a different thing.
Yeah,
but...
yeah, right. The Revolution will not be televised, but yes, the Evolution will on this program. Yeah, no, that thing was banging though. That had everything you could want in a convenience operation going for it. So, all right, Ann. Well, are you gonna side with any of the two gentlemen here, or are you gonna go out on your own?
I think this is gonna be a crazy year. No duplicates for retailer of the year because I picked IKEA.
Ooh, also a good pick.
I think they number one had a really great opportunity this year to seize the opportunity of the closure of Bed Bath & Beyond. They brought their as is resale program to the market this year, which I think is really smart. They launched $99 interior design for design for all, really.
Oh, I forgot about that announcement. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, they made over a $2 billion investment in stores in the US this year, kind of playing around with some of their smaller formats to act more like pickup hubs. And then building some more larger format stores. And I mean, I wasn't a huge fan, as many listeners know, of their elimination of their loyalty program, but apparently it's resulting in lower prices for all. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'd say overall, IKEA gets my vote this year.
Yeah, it's a year to do it too if you're going to pull it back, because it makes your numbers a lot easier for next year if you can do it in a good year too. So smart move by them. All right, so I'm gonna go out on my own here too. Like and David Ritter, I'm gonna give you kudos on this one because I think they were your pick last year, and I think the tailwind is still firmly behind their back, and that's Lululemon. I think again, standout year, which is kind of crazy because you could kind of expect it. Like last year, they were kind of a standout at the tail end of the pandemic, but pandemic's basically, come to a halt, and they're still killing it, besides even with the fact that people are going back to work. So stocks trading around $500 right now. It started at $320 at the beginning of the year. That's just absolutely insane. They're going more into men's, as David, I think you talked about last year as well. So kudos to Calvin McDonald, the whole team there, in my opinion. So no clean sweep, no multiple nominations to start us out here, Ann.
Nope. That's okay. I think we might have some duplicates coming later on in the show. I have an inkling, but let's move on to the next award, headline of the year. David Brown, let's go to you first for this one.
Yeah, I'm going to flip this category a little bit. I think the biggest headline of the year is the non-headline of the year, which is the complete omission the past year of anything sustainability or ESG related, right?
Yeah.
As inflation has taken over, and
it's true.
People have thought about the increase in goods and their move to value. Like they've completely abandoned the concept of sustainability or even caring about it anymore. Now, it's a bit of a blanket statement, which is probably wrong, but I just haven't seen much of it in the past year. Like it was in the last few when things were rolling.
That's so true, David. And I think that it gives you a good indication of, as much as we hear about Gen Z caring about, wanting to have a more sustainable product, price does play a factor, especially when we're dealing with inflation. So that makes complete sense. I love it. I love that. Flip it on its head. David Ritter, what do you say?
Why do I always have to follow him?
I know, right? It's so tough.
The best ones. So mine is Walgreens Boots Alliance cut to junk status by Moody's.
Oh,
tell us more.
Well, I think we've seen Walgreens really struggle. CEO stepped down in November.
Yeah.
You know, kind of completely backtracked on some of their strategic kind of pillars in terms of closing village MDs. I think they closed 60 primary care sites. It's just sad to see one of the most respected retailers globally, frankly, really struggle.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Ann, because like I actually love my Walgreens experience now. Like like their mobile interface is so slick, it's so easy to use. And yeah, to David's point, like Roz Brewer was there like what, like a year maybe at best. I don't remember exactly, but it was a hot minute for sure.
Yeah, they didn't give her much of a shot, and then started going back and saying we want somebody with healthcare experience, and so that whole project I don't think got the incubation time that it should have. But Chris, what was your headline of the year? I'm anxious to hear.
I don't think this one will surprise many people. And yes, it is always hard to follow David Brown. I will second that statement. Mine is Walmart publicly announcing they're rolling out electronic shelf labels. You know, we awarded last week's OmniStar for the month of December to Bala Prasanna for his work on the project. And, you know, you and I, Ann, have long been a fan of electronic shelf labels. And the fact that Walmart is publicly saying that they're going to 500 stores with them, it shows that the concept has arrived. And then you've got Schnucks, which we did the video tour of their flagship store down in St. Louis. They've got them deployed in virtually almost every store, if I'm not mistaken. That might not be exactly right, but large majority of the chain has them as well. So they're seeing their day in the sun. I think that's finally because retail is realizing that there's so much value in the 1 + 1 = 3 value equation that they can create beyond just, you know, streamlining the operations of taking prices up and down. That's a part of it, but there's so much more that they can do too.
Yeah, that's a great, I love that headline call out. I think that's, you know, really giving the go ahead for the rest of the industry. Now that Walmart's kind of given the pass there, I think that it's now something that the rest of the industry has to pay attention to, or at least explore too. I had another headline with no commonalities right now. I said that my headline of the year was actually last week's headline about NRF retracting the retail, organized retail crime statistics. Oh my gosh, I can't even say it. I think that while sustainability was lacking in coverage this year, I think, you know, organized retail crime was on the opposite end of the spectrum. I think we heard so much about that this year. It was pounded into retailers' heads and kind of gave retailers a pass to say, like, it's not that, you know, it's not our fault. We can't do anything to prevent crime. It's really these organized retail crime groups that are just like coming in and like taking things out. Media was really behind it. TikTok was behind it. And I think that now having NRF retract that information and say, oh, it's actually not as much as we thought it was, really puts the onus on some retailers as we head into 2024 to try to resolve some of those issues. So that's my 2024 prediction.
That's crazy. That headline happened last week. That's nuts. That's that impactful to you, huh? It seems like it. I mean, all the talk in Congress and everything this week around this whole issue that Daphne Holland brought up. Like it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
All right, so next one, and let's go to you first on this one. Let's go to your favorite retail technology of the year.
Well, I feel like this is an obvious one, but generative AI. I think this is where it's got to land. It just made, when we talk about the retail technology that really made the most impact, I think that's changing how every retail organization is working, from, you know, the marketing to teams at headquarters all the way down to, you know, basic, changes to tasks inside the stores. So I got to give it to generative AI.
Gen AI.
I know we talk about it a lot, but
you went the easy route. Yeah. Well, I'll jump in here too then early, because like that was mine as well. Like, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's the cream and the clear of the white collar worker everywhere. If you know how to use it correctly, it's just that performance enhancing. It's like you feel like Barry Bonds on steroids, you know, hitting 73 home runs. But yeah, so I don't have anything to add. I think that's definitively it for me as well. David Ritter, what do you think? I won't make you follow David Brown again.
Yeah, I went a slightly less obvious path here.
Okay,
it's
good.
Not necessarily a new technology, but kind of the dramatic growth in it has finally become table stakes of tap and go technology. I feel like we've finally gotten to the point now where POS hardware, credit cards, digital devices, it's accepted pretty much everywhere now. And I feel like it's really transforming the checkout experience, which is the biggest pain point in most people's shopping trip. It's not the newest technology necessarily. I feel like it's hit the inflection point where it's one of the more impactful.
And so, David, just to be clear for the audience, you're talking about tap and go at the point of sale terminal versus like scan and go throughout the store,
Tap and
right?
go
You're
with
talking
credit card
tap
pay.
and go,
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
like Apple Pay or
Yeah.
a digital wallet of some sort. Yes,
Exactly.
okay, got it. Or even your credit card, you tap a credit card, which Europeans have been doing for decades, and we're just now getting on board. Okay, great. David Brown.
Oh, I feel horrible, but we're gonna have a repeat here.
Okay.
Both you and Ann had the same one. Dave and I have the same one as well.
Oh,
I
really?
think
You had the same one as David.
yeah, continued rollout of contactless payments for me. It just makes it so easy to shop. I mean, I was out somewhere the other day, and like, I mean, they took Venmo, they took Cash App, they took Google Pay, they took Apple Pay. It was like, I don't carry cash, I don't carry wallets or anything anymore. And like, as we're moving to digital IDs and everything, like literally all you need is your device, and you always have your device with you. It just makes it seamless. Love it.
Yeah. Well, so I want to ask you too then. So, and you guys are like you said, long-time consultants, and you are talking to a lot of retailers. Are you both bringing this up because this is something you're hearing them overtly talk about in the retail boardrooms that you're in, or are you just talking about this more from you seeing it as the consumers on the consumer side of things? David Brown.
Yeah, no, I think it's both. I think, seeing it from the consumer side, it's just something that I love and appreciate. But a number of retailers that we worked with this year, from value to luxury, or it was on their top agendas from a technology platform and rollout standpoint. It just makes it easier for the consumer, right? And if you're not trying to meet consumer needs, then you're failing, right? It's that simple.
Very, very interesting. Wow. Remember, Ann, we used to ask that question, like
Yes.
when we were first doing our podcast. Remember, that was one of the questions we asked everyone at the end, like, how often do you use Apple Pay or Samsung Pay? And at the time, it was like less than 5% of those we interviewed. So that's crazy to see in this time frame.
Well,
What the two Davids are talking about.
Yes, I also think that's a perfect way to transition into Retail Person of the Year. And I'm going to actually go first myself, because
interesting.
My Retail Person of the Year, our next category, is actually Dilip Kumar of Amazon Web Services, because when you look at what his team has done to push Amazon One Palm Pay through the system this year, we are seeing that rapidly roll out in stadiums. We're seeing it happen at Panera. We're seeing it happen in Whole Foods. All these places this year, I think, is just another level up of what the Davids are talking about here when it comes to convenience for customers. I also think you look at this being an entirely new revenue stream for Amazon. They're really going into that platform of, we will make it so simple for you to pay with your palm, get in and out. You don't even need your phone anymore. So I think it's just the next evolution of that, and will become even more feasible for retailers now that they're getting into apparel in conjunction with some of those other items, so that they can really make that experience seamless. But David Brown, I want to go to you next. Who is your Retail Person of the Year?
My Retail Person there, this might have been mine 2 years ago, but I'm not totally, I don't quite remember. But Bernard Arnault is mine. For a couple different reasons. One, I think just continues to kill it on the portfolio. Scott Tiffany's working again, but more importantly, as you think about succession, actually has kind of members of the family working. There's no Apple's not going to make Succession 2 based on the Arnault family. It's not like a Pritzker with all the children, like kind of infighting kind of situation. So I just think in terms of continuing to run just a unbelievably successful conglomerate and have no issues around succession so far that we're seeing from the outside, doesn't mean that they're not there. I think it's pretty impressive. So
that's incredible. I love the variation that we're going to see in this answer. Chris, I want to go to you next. Who's yours?
Yeah, it was cool. It's like, I kudos to you too, Ed, because you kind of changed this headline or this award from last year too, because it was previously Retail CEO of the Year, and now we changed it to Retail Person of the Year. So, and I love your Dilip one too. Just to go back to that, like that, it's a really, really, really interesting nomination. I might actually second that one if I didn't always have to give this award out to Doug McMillan.
I think that's why I wanted to change it. You always pick him every year. I mean, who is the greater man crush now? Is it Ferner still, or is it Doug McMillan now? This is like
Dude,
3 or 4 years in a row.
it's like asking me to choose between my children, and it's 1A and 1B. It's clearly Dougie Doug. Like he will win this award until he has to do something really drastic not to win this award. But,
God,
but
don't do that,
I mean,
Doug. Don't do that.
But Walmart, I know, right? But Walmart, I mean, they're killing it. Their stock's doing really well again. You know, it's been a tough year for a lot of retailers. Walmart Plus is actually now seemingly a defensible comparison to Prime, which who would have thought that? I was very skeptical of that being the case. They're continuing to innovate. They've got retail media they're going after. They've got commerce technologies, new fulfillment services. They're finding the additional revenue streams too. They're evolving as an omnichannel retailer much faster than I would say some of their closest competitors are too. And they've basically established a pretty good beachhead in grocery against what was a potential onslaught from Amazon, which has been kind of stymied, which will probably come up later too. But I think the guy's just done a masterful job. So this is the actually of all the years I've nominated him, I think this is the year he's most deserving.
My gosh,
because he keeps upping his game. He keeps upping his game.
I mean, inflation helped them a little bit this year too, so let's not forget that part. But yes, good job, Doug. Chris will give you the award every year. You're safe. David Ritter, please save us here. Who is your retail person?
I am not going to save you. I'm actually gonna do my first repeat. I'm Doug McMillan. I think I think it's he has really turned a huge entity into an omni-channel retailer that it's just been an impressive transformation.
All right, fine. I get it. I guess
I'll pay you the $10 later, David. I'll pay you the $10 later.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the next one.
All right, the next one is always one of my favorites. Most overhyped retail technology of the year. Ritter, let's go to you again.
Yeah, this was tougher for me this year. There wasn't an obvious metaverse out there. I actually went with digital cooler screens. So, over the past few years, as folks have articulated the store of the future, they've painted a picture of personalized coolers that kind of change as you walk by and target ads to you. Now that we're seeing it rolled out in practice, it makes a cooler almost completely unshoppable. So I think it's just one of those good ideas gone kind of bad in practice. It really degrades the customer experience when you're trying to shop from the cooler. So I think it may have been pretty dramatically overhyped.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here next with my nomination too, because it's very, very similar to what you just said, Dave. I would actually take it more broadly. I'm kind of down on in-store retail media in general. The digitization of it in store in general, which is, cooler screens is one example of that. But even I think as you look more broadly, and the reason I say that too is shout out to Chad Lusk from the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, who's not here. He kind of opened my eyes to this because, the one factor that you have to keep in mind if these things are going to work is you have to be able to measure them and measure their impact. And that seems pretty elusive. So, but yet we're seeing more and more investments in digital screens in the store. But, for my money, I think the first right investments are really in the customer's own hands through the mobile devices, or at best through, I would say, like going back to what we talked about a couple of headlines or a couple of awards ago, ESLs. Like those are a great way to communicate marketing activations to your consumers because they can get your promos to work harder for you because your prices are going to be right. So yeah, I'm very skeptical on all the digital screen investments going into retail stores. And what do you think?
I agree with what you guys both said, but I think this year the most overhyped retail technology was really AR and AI models for apparel. I think we saw Levi's get totally burned by saying that we're going to AI models, and because we want to have more diversity and we want to show how things fit better. Like even Walmart had some other rollouts this year, and I don't think any of them do what they're supposed to. Like ultimately you don't get a sense for how that product fits on my body just because the model is more diverse, just because they're using an AI version that's culminated multiple bodies to try to showcase that product. It's still not getting to the point of, will this product fit my body better? So I think for me, that's where a lot of money was spent. And I think it's much better to work towards that. How do I create my own 3D avatar of my body so that I can order and size me versus, what this looks like on an AI generated model?
Yeah, this is always something you've been really big on, but yet it seems to be kind of elusive in terms of really making an impact for the most part throughout the industry. It's a tough nut to crack, as we've talked a lot about on the show. All right, David Brown.
For me, it's a broad category. It's really anything supply chain related.
Oh, wow.
And here's what I mean by that. Like, coming out of the pandemic, we had this huge supply chain crunch, and then it eased, and people are throwing millions to billions of dollars at supply chain technologies, but not doing the basic fixes of getting planning right and actually doing the thinking part of it. And they're hoping for a silver bullet, and it's not working, and the consumer is suffering, right? Because the right product isn't on the shelf that you want to buy. Retailers are losing sales because of it, and customers are suffering by not being able to get what they want. And there's no silver bullets out there. These companies got to actually do the hard work, and they're just trying to throw tech at it instead, which I think is sad.
All right, let's move on to my favorite new category, which is retail headline of the year you most want to see turned into a movie. David Ritter, you have a giant smile on your face. So before I go to Chris, our movie buff, I'm gonna go to you first. What headline would you like to see turned into a movie?
So I think Michelle Gass from Kohl's to Levi's would make for a fascinating movie. I mean, she started at Kohl's as the this really esteemed, held in the highest regard, and then struggled a bit, and then kind of pulled this trickadoo where she moved on, already had another job. I just think it's a really fascinating. I have to believe that behind the scenes there's just a lot of drama that went into that.
Oh
and that story's not over yet either, right, David? I mean, my God, depending on how it goes at Levi's, given the announcement this past week that Chip Berg's retiring, so
lots of policy intrigue.
Yeah, I'll buy a ticket to that movie. David Brown, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't make Jeff Bezos' life story into a movie, right? It's got
for sure.
it's got everything, right? From rags to riches to illicit affair to weird proclivities around Clock of the Long Now and Blue Origin,
Vanity Fair covers.
Like that. It's the closest we have to William Randolph Hearst and Citizen Kane and the amount of thing, or Howard Hughes, right? It's the only thing you can make into a movie that I think would be super interesting, right? So.
Oh my God, that was right. I was thinking about that one too, David Brown. I think that was there is a lot of opportunity there with that content. Chris, you're the big movie buff here. I can't wait to hear what yours was.
I had a lot of fun on this one, but those are both great answers, and hopefully we don't get the fingernails with Jeff Bezos that we get with Howard Hughes, David. All right, mine. You gotta give me some room to cook on this one, you three. But mine is it's an easy winner in my opinion. It's Colonel, the new robot vegetarian restaurant from the Chipotle founder that we talked about a month or two ago on the show. And the reason I say this is I think this film could go a couple different ways. I think one, it could be a horror flick, a la like Christine. You remember the crazy car Christine, where only in this case the car is the robot and it unsuspectingly attacks workers late at night through all kinds of crazy means. You could get that your mind going on that, or and it could also be a love story. It could also be a love story a la Her with Joaquin Phoenix about the budding love between a cashier and a humanized guacamole making robot.
I'm gonna go that route. For sure.
You like that one? Okay.
Yeah, much better. No, I don't. You lost me at Christine. I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm going to have to look that one up after this show.
It's Stephen King movie. Oh, there's movie execs listening to this podcast right now that are already greenlighting both those scripts, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go with mine, which was since I've been watching a lot of Fargo lately, the new episode of Fargo or new season of Fargo. I want to say that we should see a movie based on Enterbase implementing Amazon One Palm technology in North Dakota. Like, I just want to, I mean, I don't even think that you need a lot of production to this one. I think it's just like a straight up camera that's watching people walk in and out, like putting their palm out and just seeing what rural North Dakota thinks of this technology. Like, I just want a live stream. That's what I want. No production needed. Let's just see what happens there. And then if you did want to take the footage and cut it into like a, some kind of crime drama, like a Fargo, you could, but
Oh,
That's
you
my
betcha.
vote.
Look at my palm. You know, like, oh my God.
The tracker. Where do people think that Amazon wants to put tracking devices inside of them? Because that's really what we hear every time we hear this. But
Oh
yeah.
my God. Oh my God. What a great category ad. And again, kudos to you for coming up with that one. All right, let's keep rolling. So, best strategic move from a struggling retailer. Let's go to the longtime consultants to start this one off. David Brown.
Yeah, so not really a struggling retailer, but I do think this is one of the best moves that was made. And I feel bad about doing it because Chris, you're gonna love this. It's just giving you more arrows in your Doug Love Fest.
Okay.
But I think everything that Walmart's done in the last year around inventory has been fantastic, right? Like, you know, they took a big write-off early, they've got inventories down, where every other retailer right now is going to end up writing off massive amounts of inventory at the end of the year, or, you know, have to push it through, you know, significant more discount than they were anticipating. Walmart's in a fantastic position, right? And just their inventories are down, they're stable. They have the right products on the shelf. So I think everything that they've done around inventory the last year has really positioned them exceptionally well.
Yeah, it's great. You can tell Doug's getting better with age as the CEO too. It's not his first rodeo. He knows when to pull the triggers on certain things at the right time. So, David Brown, David Ritter, excuse me. What's your who's your award winner here for best strategic move from a struggling retailer, or just best strategic move in general?
So I think the jury's still out on this big time, but I think it was a retailer that needed to make a Hail Mary. So I thought Overstock.com buying Bed Bath & Beyond's IP was a really interesting move. I mean, for years, Overstock had struggled because of its brand didn't match its business, right? And I thought it was an innovative try, right? And we'll see if it works, but just from a strategic kind of repositioning perspective, I thought it was pretty thoughtful.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, and the jury's still out on it. Yes, I know we talked about that, and we're very optimistic ourselves about how that could position Overstock, now Bed Bath & Beyond, for the long term. That's a good ad here. And what do you think?
Mine was Peloton teaming up with Lululemon. I
Really,
think
I'm surprised by that. You were kind of so on that when they made that announcement.
Well, I think that I don't know that I just think it's going to do more for Lululemon than it is for Peloton. But I think that that Peloton really was struggling toward the middle of this year, and I think that it's a really smart partnership on both sides. It kind of gives each of them something that they needed. Once Lululemon dropped Mirror this year and didn't have the content, you have Peloton coming in strong and kind of giving that expertise to Lululemon. And then Lululemon being able to just put all their apparel, you know, front and center and really give people a brand that they know and love. I mean, there's already people spending on Peloton apparel, but I think that this really levers that up a little bit and gives them some more clout in that space. And I mean, I've seen all my instructors, they're like calling out the Lululemon every single time that you do one of the rides or one of the workouts. I mean, they're being very overt about the fact that this is Lululemon. I love how this fits. Like, even just like almost pitches more that I think is going to help Lululemon in the long run.
So it's kind of like best strategic move by a thriving retailer then, in a lot of ways, with Lululemon being the winner
for both
here.
of them. For both of them, yeah. I think there's still room for activations and other things too, which we haven't quite seen yet. But I think that Peloton coming into the Lululemon space too could be something that we see next year.
It's got to give them some tailwind too. Yeah, that's interesting. So both yours and David Ritter's are two moves I considered, but I'm going to go out on my own here on this one too. So mine is actually the move or the decision that Amazon made to halt its grocery expansion. They put the brakes on that pretty significantly, and I think it's smart because, quite honestly, they don't know how to do grocery. And they were trying to do too many things at the same time. They were trying to learn how to run a grocery store while also trying to get customers to shop it in an entirely different way through its Just Walk Out technology. That's an almost impossible task when you step back and think about it. So I think they've made the right moves. They slowed it down. They brought in some really strong outsiders to try to re-enliven the experience in the grocery stores wherever they are currently in operation, to see if they can make them better. But I still think it's going to be an uphill battle. And that's why the other part of this announcement that I think I love is that they've overtly shifted their focus to licensing the tech. Like, they've licensed the tech to airports, events, hospitals. You talked about Amazon One as well, the PalmPay system too. I think that's the smarter move, and it's more in the ethos of what Amazon has traditionally always been about.
Yeah, that's a great one, Chris. I love that ad. All right, let's go to the next award, which is Best New Partnership of the Year. David Brown, let's start with you.
This one might have been my favorite category. And
Really?
All right.
yeah. Well, because to me, it's like partnership, and I also, took a spin on collaboration. And if you look at some of the collaborations this year, like I had a bunch of that I tried to choose from. Like I love what Nike's doing, like Nike Sharpie, Nike with Tiffany's, Nike with Ben and Jerry's. I think was also cool. I mean, you think about like being able to order a Travis Scott meal at McDonald's, or Pokemon and Van Gogh Museum, and an old one, but one that's still continuing. For the hammered or high set, Doritos and Taco Bell has to be one of the best collabs of all time. But if you really want to just say, okay, partnership, I think Target and Ulta, with the Ulta shops in Target, is to me a much better implementation of Sephora at Kohl's, with actually with a stronger retail partner. So that would be my partnership winner. But I love all the collabs. There's so many cool ones.
That's such a great one, David. I have to say, just even anecdotally, I've totally changed my patterns based on having that Ulta inside of Target, and I didn't think it was going to be as significant as it actually has ended up being. But it's really
it's super
fantastic.
well executed,
and the benefits that you get from merging the loyalty programs there too, and being able to apply like even the discounting that was happening or that is still happening as we head into the holidays being applied to those Ulta items as well, not just what I could get from Target. It's like they're really working well together to create that experience for their shoppers. David Ritter, what do you have?
I've got I think a pretty straightforward one. I think Walmart's partnerships with streaming services have been pretty instrumental this year. Chris, you mentioned it earlier, but I do think Walmart Plus is starting to shape up as a meaningful Amazon competitor. And this is, I think this is a pretty important piece. I was a little skeptical when they started with Paramount Plus, but then they've continued, and even just this week they announced a partnership with Disney Plus. So I think it is starting to rival an Amazon-like program, which is important if they really want to compete head-to-head with Amazon.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I think we're only seeing the beginnings of that too, Dave. Like it's just going to continue more and more as we head into next year. Chris, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple comments on what was said already. I think David Brown, your comment was great. I mean, Ulta, makes me wonder where Target's results would be this year if they hadn't done that partnership. So that actually makes me think, it makes me do a double take on that award nomination. And David, I was right there with David Ritter. I was right there with you on Walmart too. I had the NBC Universal and Walmart collaboration, kind of my second tier of partnerships, because this was a great category to give you guys a sense of like the nominees that I was thinking about. And then I'll tell you who my winner was. But I had NBC Universal and Walmart. Forever 21 and Shein made my list too. That's a good one. And then the other one that I thought was really interesting was Grubhub and Amazon Just Walk Out on college campuses. I thought that was fascinating. But the winner for me was Amazon and Meta. Directly linking up Amazon purchases through Instagram and Facebook ads where you're not having to leave the app. That's going to be pretty damn powerful in the long run, I think. So that to me is my clear winner.
Yeah. Mine is, I would say, running and operating in the background of retail, not as much a retail partnership, but I have Microsoft and OpenAI.
That's a good one.
There's been a lot of rocky headline issues coming about lately, but I think really for the first time, like when we look at the dawn of Microsoft Office and what that did to the operating systems of a lot of, just companies in general, especially retailers, I think this is another way that you're really going to see Microsoft start to power the engines that operate all these retail stores. Having, OpenAI is a major investment that they've made this year, and really being able to kind of catapult them ahead of any other operating platform.
I think Ann might get the mic drop here, because I heard David Brown go, "Ooh, that's a good one." Yeah, that's a good one. I think you're in the running for the winner of this year's mic drop award, Ann, on these awards. That was a really, really good partnership you just called out. All right, let's go to the next one, which is most laughable headline of the year. New category. Can't wait to see where this one goes. David Ritter, start us out.
All right, so I took a spin on this. I can't decide whether it's laugh or cry.
Oh,
But,
God.
but the headline that I'm picking is Macy's shares soar on talks of a buyout. So I think, there's two ways to think about this. Like, if you think the buyout is to turn around Macy's, the notion of some financiers turning around Macy's when they've had 18 different transformation efforts happen already is kind of laughable.
It is laughable, yes.
And the sad part about this, though, is I think there's probably a real estate play underway, and it's more about shutting down operations than improving them, which is the sad part of it.
Yeah.
David, can I ask you a question? I was thinking about this story. I was thinking about this when this story broke, and I want to get your consulting opinion on this. Is the timing of this pretty typical, like a new CEO coming in after the previous CEO is exiting or departing or retiring? The activist investors get pretty, excited about the opportunity here. Is that timing pretty common in this sort of thing, or am I reading too much into that as well?
I think leadership changes and inflection points, whether it's an earnings release, tend to be times where activists investigate specific retailers. So I think you're on to something. Although I will say I think there's kind of there's a pond that activist investors are kind of continually watching, and they're sharks, but kind
just looking for the right moment to strike,
yeah.
to bite. Yeah, got it. And seeing the chum in the water maybe too. All right, David Brown. Now, David Brown. Yes. What's your most laughable headline of the year?
Yeah, well, this one definitely made me laugh and then cry a little bit. But I read this headline a couple weeks ago that Ozempic is primarily responsible for the retail slowdown this year because people are eating less junk food. And which I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is like the most ridiculous headline I've ever read. Plus, I mean, Ozempic doesn't really work, because as soon as you go off it, you run to the junk store and buy a bunch of food. So if anything, it's a timing issue. But I like if people are relying on a drug to explain your poor results, then you got way bigger problems.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's kind of the season was too hot or too cold kind of announcement in the earnings statement. It's a new version of that. All right. Well, mine was, and I don't think this will surprise you, Ann, and I'm curious what you have too, because I have a feeling we might light up on this one, but I think it's the easiest award I've ever handed out, quite frankly. It's when Target CEO Brian Cornell said with a straight face to Courtney Reagan on CNBC recently that shoppers are giving him a big thank you for putting products behind glass, which there's no effing way that's true. Absolutely no way that's true.
That was 100% mine. Like, it was the funny. I still can't believe it. And I still get so enraged that was actually allowed to come out of his mouth. Like, no way in hell is anyone thanking you for locking up my Dove soap and making me wait 3 minutes to get that unlocked. Absolutely not.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of that line in The Departed, the great movie, The Departed, where she says to Leo, honesty is not synonymous with truth. Like, yes, someone may have said that to him at the time, and the SEC is not going to come after him for making false statements, but like, it's no way is that real, that actually is how people feel. So it's just downright laughable in my opinion.
All right, let's go on to retail concept you wish you had in your neighborhood, but don't. David Ritter, let's go to you first.
So I don't know if this counts as retail. I think it's retail, experiential retail.
Sure.
But I picked Legoland. I have two young kids, and we recently took a trip to San Antonio and went to Legoland. And I think it was a very impressive combination of theme park and retail store.
Sure.
Which was frankly hours of occupying my children, which is a very valuable commodity on Saturdays and Sundays. So I thought it was a really fascinating concept.
That's great. And I wonder why they don't have more. Like, even if you just did Legoland on a little bit of a smaller scale, like, I think that would kill, especially for so many different age ranges, like kidults all the way down to toddlers. I mean, you've got a lot of opportunity there to really do that experiential retail in the right way. I love that idea. David Brown, what do you want in your neighborhood?
Yeah, there's a lot of things I love in my neighborhood. I thought I was in a bunch of really cool retail concepts this year, from what Nespresso's doing in the UK with, kind of blending your own coffee, to, Taco Bell's Defy store where they have, like 4 drive-in lanes where the kitchen's up above to, feed people through, or, I think the Reformation store in NoHo is super cool as well, where it's just one product of each type, and, and then you go in the dressing room and you can punch up other products. But the one I really want is, there's a store in New York called Coming Soon that it's kind of like a Etsy on steroids, where it's all just, kind of new cutting edge stuff. I've never walked in there that I haven't spent way more money than I ever anticipated. And I would just love to have one in my hometown, because I think it's one of the best stores and one of the best concepts I've seen.
We got to go there, Chris, when we're there
Yeah.
for NRF.
You should.
check
Check
that
it
out.
awesome.
Yeah,
You'll love it.
coming
Yeah.
soon. Okay,
Okay.
coming soon. Noted.
Okay, Chris, I'm curious what you think. Chris, being that we live about 6 blocks away from each other, I think I might know who yours is.
Yeah,
but
this is always a fun one.
What
for
do you
us.
say?
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one of the things in contention for David Brown was a souped up Taco Bell. I just want to make sure that point gets emphasized.
There's been a lot of Taco Bell drops. The
I know, it
Doritos
goes along with my
collab,
late
like
night munchies.
All
yeah,
right,
Doritos.
all right.
Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah. That's kind of fascinating subtext of this whole conversation. All right, we'll circle back to that later. This one was easy for me. I think I said it on the show, maybe even last week or a couple of weeks ago, when they had the big merger announcement with Dom's Market in Chicago to create Outfox, which is, I want Foxtrot Market. That thing's an awesome experience, and I think it would kill in our neighborhood in particular. So that would be my answer, Ann.
And I totally agree. That was my answer as well. And not just in our neighborhood, but I think that smaller format, really specialized retail store in a lot of neighborhoods would stand to do really well. So we'll see how expansion goes for them now that they've got Dom's under the hood too.
Yeah. Wow. So, God, you and I have congealed a lot on this show. That's very atypical. I feel like you and I are congealing more than we are with the friends from the A&M Consumer and Retail Group here. But hey, that's
not
how
on Doug
cookie rolls.
McMillan though. I won't give him the award every
Right.
year.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yes, Ritter and I synced up on that one.
This is almost the Walmart award show.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It is. Yeah, in a lot of ways. All right. The last category of the day for 2023 is tomorrow's headlines today. So what is the one headline each of you predict that we will see in 2024? David Brown, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I think when if we do this show next year, I think it's going to be a headline along the lines of bloodbath to boom. I think, this holiday season, we're going to see a bloodbath in retail. I think there's going to be a lot of retailers going to be pushed over the edge. And then I see through 24, right? The Fed held rates. They've announced potentially 3 cuts.
Right.
Easing monetary policy. I think you'll see, consumers start spending again. I expect that, Chinese consumer on the high end to come back, which has been missing the last 2 or 3 years. So I think by the end of next year, I think, there's a good chance you see retail booming again. So to me, it's going to be a bloodbath to boom.
Interesting point. Ann, what are your thoughts on tomorrow's headlines today?
So I think we're going to see retailers stop locking up product and start making permanent changes to stores. I think that we're just especially with the news that I mentioned earlier about what's really happening. It's not just organized retail crime that's responsible for the theft that we're seeing in stores. And it's just not, I think customers are going to have enough of it. They don't want to be waiting for stuff to get unlocked, waiting that average of 2 to 3 minutes every time they want to purchase something. So I think we start to see retailers making more investments in how do we make this a simpler shopping experience, from the very bare minimum of what we saw Giant Eagle do, where they're just having an entrance to a store and an exit of a store to try to mitigate some of that theft that's happening, or just keep a closer eye on it, all the way through to investing more significantly in checkout free options for their stores.
Great one. Love to see that for sure. David Ritter.
So I'm a little bit contrarian to David Brown on this one. I think we're going to see retailers struggle in 24, and I hate to say this at the holiday season. So I think we're going to continue to see belt tightening. I think some of the things that David mentioned are true, but I think they tend to have a longer lead time. So for 24, I guess, I think we're going to continue to see retailers really struggle. I think we'll see a decreased discretionary spending, more trading down, consolidation of trips. But I think that will lead to to blurring of channel lines and really fighting for traffic. So I think some of the traditional way we think about competition, like I think you're saying grocers compete with drug, compete with discount, because as those trips consolidate, there's just not that many out there. So every trip's going to really matter from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting too, especially since we don't really understand the lag effect of the Fed's actions too necessarily in terms of how long they all take to see the benefits or the drawbacks from them too. That makes me think more about mine as well. So mine is actually given the economic climate in the past year, and then David, if what you say about next year is correct, I think that it plays into this as well. I think you're going to see a major C-suite shakeup at Target, because no matter how you slice it, the results this year have been pretty aberrational, and Cornell's getting up in age too. We don't know how many years he's got left. The leadership team underneath him is really green. They lost their COO, John Mulligan, who was kind of the glue that held the whole thing together. So, and honestly, I've said this before, but where's the growth? I don't know where the growth's coming from. I don't know where they're thinking it's going to come from. They haven't announced anything publicly that will have any material impact on growth in the long run. So I do wonder, if things don't start to improve, do heads start to roll? But yeah, that's kind of my take. And any final words from anyone on this show? Anyone want to get any last chip shots in?
No, I think
no.
I think that next year we're gonna need to force you to pick a new person though for retailer of the year, Chris.
Oh, I don't think so. It's like Buffalo
There should
Bills.
be like no repeat winner rule.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
no
really?
repeat winner.
Man.
But David Brown,
man.
you might have to come up with the new retailer of the year too. Then we got to challenge you guys to dig deep.
Well, I went every other year, so that's okay.
Right.
Fair,
You did. You
fair,
did.
fair.
I'm like Chris Berman. He used to pick the Buffalo Bills to win the Super Bowl every year, regardless of how bad or how good they were. So that's kind of how that's giving him an homage. But all right, well, let's close up the show. Happy birthday today to Cynthia Gibb of Youngblood, starring Rob Lowe, Nancy Valen of Baywatch, and to the mom all our hearts went out to in E.T., the great and very underappreciated Dee Wallace. And remember, if you can only read or listen to one retail blog in the business, make it OmniTalk, the only retail media outlet run by two former executives from a current top 10 U.S. retailer. Our Fast Five podcast is the quickest, fastest rundown of all the week's top news. And our twice weekly newsletter tells you the top 5 things you need to know each day, and also features special content that's exclusive to us, and we do it all just for you. And we try really hard to make it all fit within the preview pane of your inbox. Thanks as always for listening in. Please remember to like and leave us a review wherever you happen to listen to your podcast or on YouTube. You can follow us today by simply going to youtube.com/OmniTalkRetail. David Ritter, if people want to get in touch with you, reach out to you, pick either one of your brains, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can reach out to us directly on LinkedIn. Either of us, we both have individual profiles. David Ritter, David Brown. We have an Alvarez and Marsal Consumer and Retail Group is on LinkedIn, or you can email me directly at dritter@alvarezandmarsal.com.
Awesome. The email drop. That's great. All right. Well, on behalf of the two Davids, on behalf of Ann, and on behalf of all of us here at OmniTalk Retail, as always, be careful out there.
The OmniTalk Retail Fast Five is brought to you in association with the A&M Consumer and Retail Group. The A&M Consumer and Retail Group is a management consulting firm that tackles the most complex challenges and advances its clients, people, and communities toward their maximum potential. CRG brings the experience, tools, and operator-like pragmatism to help retailers and consumer products companies be on the right side of disruption. And Firework. Firework is the largest video commerce solution built for the world's leading brands. They empower brands with shoppable and live stream video on their own websites where people like to shop. Put your commerce in motion with Firework. Find out more at firework.com. And Avalara. Avalara makes tax compliance faster, easier, more accurate, and more reliable for 30,000 plus business and government customers in over 90 countries. Avalara leverages 1,200 plus signed partner integrations to power tax calculations, document management, tax return filing, and tax content access. Visit avalara.com to improve your compliance journey. And TGW. Revolutionize your grocery supply chain with TGW. Their experts tailor automation solutions to your needs, ensuring you have the edge. Work with TGW before your competition does. Discover more at tgw-group.com. And finally, Sezzle. Sezzle is an innovative buy now, pay later solution that allows shoppers to split purchases into 4 interest-free payments over 6 weeks. To learn more, visit Sezzle.com.